Come on. You knew I was going to do this. You knew I was going to make a video about this show. The show's fantastic. Of course I was going to make a video about... Oh, okay. Of course I was going to make a video about That's weird. That's so weird. Of course I was going to make a video about Invincible. Invincible. Okay. I guess it's just not going to happen. All right. Hey, everybody. My name is... I don't own any Invincible merchandise just yet, so I'm rocking his second suit colors, and if you look closely, you can see we got a little Omni Man cosplay going on right there. So Invincible Season 1 is fantastic. Absolutely incredible. Probably one of my favorite superhero shows ever made. It is up there with Daredevil and Doom Patrol and Umbrella Academy. And I'm so grateful that I'm not alone in thinking this. I'm grateful that it is actually a very successful show, and we already have Seasons 2 and 3 set up already. And I want to talk about it, because I want to talk about Invincible, because I fucking love it. I think it's... Can I swear yet? Can I say fuck yet? Fuck. So this is unscripted. I've got kind of a bullet list, but it's not great, but I've just got my Baja Blast, and that's going to keep me going. So, and before we get started, I would really appreciate it if you could hit the like button and subscribe if you're not already. Algorithm, it helps out. Invincible really is a great show. If you have not seen it, you really need to watch it. This is going to be a spoiler-free review. Don't worry. I'm going to go in depth into spoilers in another video sometime in the future. Invincible really is just fantastic in every way. The animation's incredible. The voice cast is incredible. Fucking Steven Yeun is amazing as Mark Grayson. Mark Grayson in general is just probably now one of my favorite characters. Mark Grayson is so cool, and he's so fresh, and he's so fun, and he plays with these tropes, and he plays with the Superman, Spider-Man type thing. This is really just the best Spider-Man show that we've ever had, aside from maybe Spectacular. He has consequences for his actions. You see him like struggle with the superhero lifestyle interfering with his human life, his personal life and stuff like that. And he seems to struggle with working with a team and struggling with his parents and stuff like that. Like, this is such a very personal show, and Robert Kirkman with the comics and Cory Walker and Ryan Ottley, they kill it. The comics are incredible. I've started reading them. I'm through volume 10 as of recording this, and it's just great. The show is fantastic, and I can't recommend it enough. There's just so much to talk about. It's so much about the show. So good. It's just so good. There's nothing else, no other way I can describe it besides saying that it's great. And the things that make it great, and I don't want to I know a bunch of my YouTube friends are making Invincible videos right now, so I don't want to step on their toes and talk about the same things they're talking about. So the show is great about being this very mature superhero story, but not being gross out, not being edgy and overly violent and it's very violent, but it does this great balancing act of it still feels like it's fun, it still has this fun energy, but being sort of set in a realistically physical world, if that makes sense. Like when Superman, the Superman equivalent Omni Man, when he punches somebody, yeah, their fucking guts are gonna go, all over the wall, all over the title card. And it's yeah, it's fun. It feels very realistic, but not in a dark, gritty, grounded way. In yeah, this makes sense. And I think a lot of that comes down to the comics, and a lot of that comes down to Ryan Ottley and Robert Kirkman and Cory Walker for making such a great comic that Amazon then, fuck Amazon, but they adapted it, and they adapted it super well. And so now, having read 30% of the comics, I'm starting to really appreciate the way that the show chooses to adapt the comics. This isn't a direct one-to-one adaptation, but it's also not a spin-off, just use the characters and their names and do something completely different. Because we're used to those two things. We're used to one-to-one adaptations for something like anime and manga tend to do that a lot, and we're used to something like a totally new story, where something with the movies. We're used to comics not being directly adapted, and that's a whole other conversation. But the thing that I find really interesting about the Invincible show is that it's more so kind of in the middle. It's a one-to-one adaptation, but also not. The same events happen in the comics. Every event happens in the comics, but the show expands on certain things and repaces things and places things around in the story in a way that's so much more interesting. Like the big mystery of season 1 about who did the, why certain things happened. In the comic, that's it's 6 issues. It's not that long, and there's not this big mystery and investigation about anything. And I think that's really interesting, the way that they chose to pace it. It allows for somebody to come into the show, which is very popular, everybody's talking about it, they really enjoy it. Oh shit, there's probably like a 2-year wait before season 2. Okay, well, let me get into the comics now. Oh, okay, I gotta start at the first issue? Oh wait, it's all different. It's like it doesn't punish people for like going back and reading the comics after the show, but it also doesn't like punish comic readers. You know, I don't feel like I'm gonna miss out on season 2 and season 3 now that I've read what the comics are gonna do for those seasons, because I know that they're going to do something differently. I know that they're going to expand on certain characters and make them more interesting. Like, this is not a spoiler. This is such a nothing spoiler. In the comic, the Doc Seismic character is like a nothing character. But then the show goes and makes him this super woke political dude. And they kind of make jokes about that. And it's really funny.
They were oppressors, racists, slave owners. I mean, look at the costume they've got you in. Talk about pandering to gender roles.
I designed my own costume, and I thought your doctorate was in seismology.
Undergrad in sociology and women's studies. I had a minor in African dance. But enough politics!
And like the character of Amber in the comics is relatively small. She's got a decent role kind of later after the events of what season 1 are doing, but for the most part, she's a pretty small character, and she's nothing like she is in the show. In the show, she's totally different, and she's totally unique. And they do some kind of stuff with her towards the end of season 1 that I'm not the biggest fan of, but like, she's different from the comics, and it's really cool. I dig that. And I think part of that comes down to like hindsight. You know, the makers of the show, they have all the comics are done already. They have this whole story, and now they can kind of set things up and repaste things. I think the big benefit is that Robert Kirkman is involved in the show. And I don't know if Cory Walker is. I believe he is, though. Like, Robert Kirkman is in the press stuff. He's in the writer's room. He's helping out, because Invincible really is kind of his baby. And I think that's really, really cool. And I think that allows, like, because you don't have this issue of like, oh, we gotta respect the source material, when the creator of the source material is right there, and he's like, no, fuck that, fix it. Especially this old story. This book is like 15 years old now at this point. I don't know when it ended, but it started in 2003. So it's like, yeah, there's some stuff that they're gonna expand on. They're gonna make the cast a little bit more diverse. They're gonna make some of the jokes age a little bit better. They're gonna do certain things with the pacing and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, it works. It works super, super well, and it's cool as hell. And I love it. I think it's fantastic. And I hope that that like mindset for, hang on, let me just take a sip of my Baja Blast. I hope that that mindset for adaptation kind of continues in other projects. I'm noticing this trend lately, and I really hope it's not a trend. I hope it's more than just like a fad, because there is something to it. But I'm really noticing this trend after The Boys, after the massive success of The Boys. Streaming services are now like looking to Image Comics and Indie Comics and Dark Horse Comics, you know, like all these creator-owned independent comics for ideas. Gone are kind of the days of like really trying to get like a big 2 type story, a big DC, a big Marvel story. And now we're getting stuff like The Boys, Invincible, Umbrella Academy, the Jupiter's Legacy show, which I don't really know how well, I haven't seen it. And even like they announced that they're doing an adaptation of Jeff Lemire's Sweet Tooth, which that seems really cool. I'm really excited for that. And I think that that's kind of the direction that can kind of fix comics. Because I don't know if you guys knew this, the comics industry is kind of having a hard time right now. The comics industry has been kind of struggling for the past 20 years. Like it's slowly become this sort of dying medium of like, and you would think with these big like adaptations, these big films, the MCU, that people would be rushing to get comics, people would be rushing into the comic stores, and it's like, not really, not as much as you would think. And if they are going after to get comics, they're usually getting it digitally, so it's not, you're not helping local stores or anything. There's always been this concern of like, this art form is kind of dying out, and it sucks, it really sucks. And how do we fix that, and how do we do that? And I really think that the way to kind of help and fix it is Invincible. I really think that Invincible could save comics, or not specifically Invincible, but I think stuff like it. These 1-to-1, but not really, these like 1-to-1.5 adaptations that are following a similar story, in the same story essentially, same character, same everything, but modernizing it, fixing it, the hindsight is 2020 type mindset. And they're creator owned. Allow the creators to be involved in the project. Allow Jeff Lemire to be in the Sweet Tooth show. Allow these creators of these comics to have a say and to get money from it. Because that's the thing. It's like, that's the reason Image Comics was made, because so many artists and creators and writers were kind of getting fucked over by the big two. The creators of all these gigantic, massive characters that are so successful, they don't get anything from it. And that's not the case with indie comics and image comics and stuff like that. If that's the direction we go in, if that's the direction that, you know, streaming services looking to independent comics and independent creators for stories that have proven to be successful, and then taking them and adapting them in a kind of like modernized way that's not disrespectful to the source material and still have the original creator working on it, that's the best thing you can do. Because, like, I mean, I want to be a comic writer. I want to, you know, write stories in this medium because I think the comic medium is fantastic. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful work of art. It's a beautiful way to express story, to express emotion, express pain and sorrow and happiness and joy and love and action and set piece and fun. You know, it's perfect. Like, I really think comics are the best way to tell a story. Oh, I'm out of Baja Blast. That's okay, because I got another. And I'm just really excited for the potential of this future landscape of comics and this kind of synergy with not traditional media, with modern digital media, with streaming services and shows and film and stuff like that. Because that kind of synergy, that kind of like back and forth and like discussion with the original creators and stuff like that, and that mindset with adaptation, that's why something like manga is so successful in the West. Because people would watch an anime and then be like, oh shit, season 1 is over, now let's go hop into the manga, read on for season 2. Like, it's this kind of like, you get ingrained in it, because in the West we have this like mindset, like this fear of comic books. Like, it's this like, oh, comics are for nerds, comics are just a superhero medium, when it's like, no, comics are a fantastic medium. Comics are a great way to tell stories. And I really hope that this direction and this like I don't want this to be a trend. I really don't, because like this could really be something, and this could save a lot of people, this could save the industry, and it could really help out a lot of creators. And while we're on the topic of indie comics that should be made into shows so that they get more successful, you all need to read Radiant Black. Do you see this? Do you see this book? This is the best comic out right now. This book is so fucking good. By Kyle Higgins and Marcelo Costa. It's so good. It's so fucking good. It's about this guy. He's a writer, and he like is in crippling debt, like 400 grand in debt, and he's, you know, the money troubles are like eating at him, and it sucks. And he tries to like write this novel, and he comes across this like black hole type thing that he grabs, and he gets this cool ass costume, and he becomes a superhero, Radiant Black. And so he tries to be a superhero while also being an Uber driver, while also trying to write a novel. And it really captures the like spirit of being a writer and like the kind of stress that's behind it. I really love this book. I really, really love this book. If you were looking for something, you need to read this. This is fantastic. I absolutely adore this book. This is going to be the next Invincible. I'm telling you right now. And here's a list of other indie comics that I'd like to see adapted. I haven't read all of them. I've just heard really good things, and they look really cool. So some of them are pretty popular, so they probably will get adapted. Anyway, I think that kind of wraps up this video. Sorry this was kind of a mess. Again, I didn't have a script. I kind of just went off. To sum things up, Invincible is fantastic. Invincible is great. It's a great comic, a great show. I read the first 50 issues in like 3 days. Also, just look how big this is. Look at how big this is. There's so much of it. There's so much of this comic. This is only a third of it. What the fuck? Well, how do you write this much? But to wrap things up, Invincible is great. I love the comic. I love the show. I really, really love this direction that streaming services seem to go in, of looking at independent creators and looking at independent writers and independent stories. I just really don't want this to be a trend. I don't want this to be just like a fad, and like in 6 weeks, script doctors are gonna be like, the Image Comics stuff is kind of that's so 6 weeks ago. You know, I'm really worried about that. But with that said, thanks so much for watching, everybody. This has been Troyoboyo coming at you live. I'm considering dropping the 17. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments if I should be Troyoboyo or Troyoboyo17. I'm not really sure yet. I've kind of going back and forth on it. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to help out the channel. Special thanks to Ghost Rebel 100, Cassidy Bond, Jonah, and Lord Korb for being spectacular fanboys on my Patreon. Your support really means everything to me. If you're able to get vaccinated, please do. Be responsible, everybody, and I'll see you around.